Good morning, John.
Hello.
Now, given that DRS is about dispute resolution,
Yeah.
and that is your business, your latest initiatives are very much around avoiding disputes rather than resolving them. So now, how do these two things sit together?
I think very briefly 2 points. One, RICS operates under a royal charter which has a public interest imperative in it. Therefore, we're obliged to do whatever it is that best suits or serves the public interest, and preventing disputes from growing and taking up time, energy involved in taking them to court or to arbitration or to adjudication is clearly in the public interest. So that's the one answer. And the second is that actually we are providing an independent third-party appointment and administration service which supports the conflict avoidance mechanisms that we're providing. So we are in fact generating business for ourselves.
And you mentioned there the London Underground cap, which I understand was designed with them and is a bespoke approach to their needs.
Yeah.
Sort of at a high level, can you give us an understanding of how it works?
In essence, it's a bespoke process that we put together working with Transport for London and their major Tier 1 contractors, Costain, Langer, O'Rourke, Taylor Woodrow, BAM, and then Skanska. We try to identify the areas in which they foresaw issues as arising over the suite of contracts that were being rolled out. We then identified a group of very high-level experts who had the skills and the capacities needed to deal with all of those issues. And then in consultation with them, we put into place a mechanism by which they could invoke the process, and then the conflict avoidance panel, which would then be appointed by RICS, would take control of the case, talk to the parties, visit site, read the documentations, call for extra evidence if it needed it, and ultimately give a non-binding recommendation. In essence, the process is firstly a very robust form of mediation in which they try and bring the parties together, and on the issues in which they don't get brought together, they provide a recommendation, and if either party chooses not to be bound by it, they then have to give full justification within a week as to why they don't. It's worked very, very well. We've had, I think, 14 matters have been referred to it in the last year. £600 million worth of disputes have been kept out of the courts. And touch wood, so far every recommendation has been accepted by the parties. So, so far so good.
So from those results, it sounds as if the TfL cap is working very, very well. Obviously that's London-centric, that's UK-centric. Do you see that there's the opportunity to take this ethos elsewhere around the world? We have thought of this primarily in the construction infrastructure sector. I dare say there's, in any situation in which people find themselves, there is place for conflict avoidance as opposed to dispute resolution. It's not something that we have really explored, particularly outside of construction, although we have looked at some stuff in terms of planning, Section 106 and various aspects regarding that side of it. But the main thrust here is in that structure, is in the construction infrastructure sector. Certainly outside the UK there's a great deal of interest, and I think it clearly has potential all the way around the world. So I'm off to Dubai next week to go and talk to the Expo 2020 committee about something similar for them. We're working with Ashgar, which is a public works department in Qatar. There's interest from the South African JVCC, which is the Joint Building Contracts Committee, about seeing whether similar provisions can be built into their suite of contracts which are applied very heavily in sub-Saharan Africa. And there's various other places, Australia, Singapore, Hong Kong, where there are people interested in similar devices. So I think it is of international application. And so to raise interest, to raise awareness, and I think really to educate industry as well about a shift, and it is a shift towards avoidance. What activities are going on around that? Well,
I think one of the most important ones is the creation of a coalition that we've been very involved in, working with our partner organisations. That's ICE, CIR, REBA, DRBF, that's a Dispute Resolution Board Foundation, and the International Chamber of Commerce. And this is a coalition of the major service providers of dispute resolution and avoidance services in the built environment, which at the moment is focused on promulgating a pledge, which will be hopefully signed up to by clients and firms with a view to encouraging and adopting the use of dispute avoidance processes, again internationally.